What if David Cronenberg made a Halo movie? That's basically what we got with this 2009 sci-fi flick, a problematic look at a problematic time in South Africa through the lens of gory body horror. It's day 66 of 369. Today's movie, District 9. Directed by Neil Blomkamp and starring Sharlto Copley, this was all the buzz back in 2009. This one went to the Oscars in 4 different categories. It marked Peter Jackson's move from directing into producing and was bringing a brand new director into the feature film world through his amazing short film tech demo. Looking back from 2025, we can see a trail of problematic decisions through the lens of what is otherwise a good-hearted attempt to talk about post-apartheid South Africa. This one hurts me to talk about. I loved it as a teen in the theaters, but having learned about what went down while they were filming, it really breaks my heart, and I think it's worth talking about before we get into the stuff about the movie that I like. When I was a teen, I didn't know the things that were going on in the background. I was disconnected from the world, being in my parents' cult, and all I saw was Peter Jackson's name on the billing. He made Lord of the Rings, so I was going to show up. The movie impacted me deeply as a teen, and I've returned to it over and over again because of the way that it's so well executed, the handheld documentary style with really cutting-edge CGI footage. For my recent rewatch, I did a dive into some of the more ethical questions around how this movie was made, and I've come back with more questions than answers, but a lot of disappointment overall in how this was handled. The movie is attempting to hold a magnifying glass up to problems in South Africa at the time, and then also orchestrated some of those problems in real life by displacing disenfranchised people for the filming of the movie. That's not a good thing. I've heard arguments that because this is a smaller movie, that they aren't held to the same standards as a big budget blockbuster, but this was a $30 million production. That's no small fish to fry. Also brings into question their choices to make people like the Nigerians out to be cannibals and alien eaters. I think that's kind of a strange two-dimensional choice for a movie that wants to act and feel as deep as it seems at times. It's kind of a having its cake and eating it too problem. I understand the good that this movie wants to talk about, but it's doing it in a way that is not actively questioning itself, and that's not good, especially when your metaphor is entrenched in sci-fi. Sci-fi demands a deep, introspective lens. Personally, I think it kneecaps the metaphor a little bit for them to have leaned into the things that they're also holding a looking glass up to. That being said, there is a lot of artistry on display here. So from here, let's get into the nicer stuff and the 3 things that I still really love about District 9. The first thing that I love about this movie, and the thing that stood out to me the first time I saw it up and until this time, is the body horror. Like I said at the top, this is David Cronenberg-inspired top to bottom. But body horror is working as a metaphor within this movie as well. It is not just gore for gore's sake. It is not just gross out for grossness' sake. Vicus is losing his humanity physically as he transforms into the people that him and his job have taken advantage of for the last 30 years. Now contrast that with the humanity he gains as he becomes more alien-like, he becomes more empathetic. He understands more and more what has been happening to these people, even up to the point that he becomes a test subject himself, putting him directly in the shoes of the people that he has been taking advantage of for all of his adult working life. There were reviews at the time that pointed this out. If you replace prawn with any minority status, the heart of the movie becomes that much more obvious. This movie is about holding a mirror up to the people that are the richest in society, that are the most blessed in society, and saying, look at the way that those that are disenfranchised are taken advantage of and dehumanized to the point of not even using humans to spell this point out. That's the irony of our protagonist. He starts off kind of cute, kind of funny. The opening scenes with him feel more like The Office than they do any David Cronenberg movie. But by the time we get to the end, he is so fully transformed. Even his vision, the way he sees the world, has literally been shifted and metaphorically been shifted through his character. As we see, he's now willing to sacrifice himself for these people. I don't know if this is the best executed. I think that there are probably more empathetic and humane ways that it could have been done, and it's a little rushed across the movie on my 2025 rewatch. However, I do think that the metaphor stands. The allegory really, really works. And that idea is something that I think could be played out more if we were to get a District 10. Keep the thoughts of a sequel in the back of your mind for our next 2 points. Another thing that I love about this movie that I didn't catch on my first watch that I definitely caught this time is the ambiguous ending. This was a big point of frustration at the time in 2009. I think a big reason people pushed for a sequel is because this movie leaves us wondering what the outcome could be. Was Chris Johnson lying about the fact that they could change him back? Did he even know that the fuel was going to change Vicus into one of the prawns? There's no way for us to know, and we know that there's at least a 3-year gap between them leaving and coming back. When they come back, do they come back peacefully or with reinforcements as they've been subjugated to some of their worst treatment of their lives while on Earth? This is another excellent, excellent metaphor that I'm not even sure if the filmmakers intended. This is white dread. This is the idea that when your entire race subjugates another race, that your lack of empathy will be turned back on you. District 10 could be a war movie, straight up. They would have every reason to come back and annihilate us for what we did to them. But it also could be a movie of empathy, where maybe the reason that they left their planet is because it's dying. There aren't many of them left, and they're willing to see out the Earth even though they have 30 years of mistreatment under their belt. That could also equally be the movie that we get. Perhaps the transformation back isn't something that can happen, and that causes a rift where lies were spread on both ends. This is the kind of moral ambiguity that makes things like Attack on Titan work so well as stories. And I think this is the only way I would want to see a sequel explored, is by exploring that white dread. We would absolutely deserve the annihilation, but as we've learned time and time again, minority groups don't always want revenge. They want change. And that change is something that we have 3 years on the District 9 clock to actually reverse and actually change, so that when they return to Earth, there's an entire community of people to say, the last 30 years were bad, but the last 3, they started to make up for it. Is that something that we as a species here in 2025 are willing to do either? That's a great question as I look around at the current political landscape, and I'm looking at places like Palestine, where things need to be turned around and quickly, because the one-to-one with movies like District 9 or real-world events like the Holocaust are becoming so real that they're undeniable. This movie's accidentally maybe asking that question, and that really impacted me on this watch. It's a hard to watch movie for a lot of different reasons now, but that little nugget, the ending that we get, that works for me so fucking well. The third and admittedly more childish thing that I really love about this movie is the tech demo that it represents. Like I said at the top, this is a guy that adores Halo. Blomkamp has been trying to adapt it for a long time, along with Peter Jackson. That was actually the big talk right after this movie came out, that was going to be their next goal. We've not seen that Halo movie. We got a shitty fucking TV show that looked like a paintball arena ad instead, but I don't have to watch things that I don't like, especially when it comes to TV. So, the tech demo is showing off how well they could incorporate CGI into this mockumentary handheld format, and all the things that they developed around it. The middle of this movie, where Vicus is being turned into a test subject, turns into a functional show and tell of the weaponry developed for this world and for this movie. They show us pistols, machine guns, flamethrowers, rocket launchers, Tesla coils, everything that you could think of. They dreamed it up, and they show it off in the coolest ways possible. I am absolutely floored that we never got a District 9 video game. With the mech suit at the end, with the shuttle, with the main ship that they come in, with all the little tech doodads and extras that we find, this is something that is ripe for the picking. Video games are always looking for this kind of thing, and you can tell Blomkamp is a big video game fan just by the way he develops this world, this movie, and this story. It looks a lot like a video game most of the time, especially in the back half while he's on the run from mercenaries. This is something that I really enjoyed a lot as a kid, and kind of reawakened the inner kid in me when I was watching it this time. It was so much fun to see the weapons on display. Even just him dry firing with the Tesla coil gun in the middle of the fight, I thought was so cool, so unique, so well played, that by the time we get to other Blomkamp movies like Chappie, they almost feel quaint in comparison to like the glee that is on display with the way that they eviscerate bodies with these amazing weapons. And again, that works as a metaphor. This is something that these aliens showed up kind of warlike, kind of ready to do things in the way that we would, but maybe not specifically to use them on us. That's something we can never know. But then the humans, equally as warlike, equally as gleeful in using the weapons, all they want to do is figure out how to use them, even to the point that once his DNA is spliced enough, they want to see if his human hands can still fire the weapons, because that's what they care about, potentially creating soldiers that can use their weapons against them. I really love this aspect of the tech demo. It plays super, super well for me, and if there's ever a reason to revisit this, even just looking up the clips on YouTube, I'm going to be looking up those action sequences. They're so fucking fun. But what do you think? Did I give this problematic movie its time in the sun correctly, or do you think I was maybe a little too harsh on my ethics around it? This is a question I asked myself while I was writing this script, but I think it was important to highlight the good stuff and the bad stuff that comes along with these movies from almost 20 years ago. Our next movie, we're switching from sci-fi into comedy with Adam Sandler's Funny People, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.